everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Guinea Pig channel. I am here chatting with my two friends about Dungeons and Dragons. On my left, your right, we have Rusty452. And on my right, your left, we have Matt, our resident expert on everything D&D. So, today we come before you to discuss the glory that is Roll20. 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 Yup.
Like a lot of people, when the pandemic happened, we all used to play in person, and then with the pandemic, we started playing remotely. So that was, it definitely had some upsides. We got to play more frequently. That was just so much easier to schedule. And, if the game ran a little late, that was fine. You didn't have to worry about getting home after. In terms of, I feel like Roll20 is probably the most popular system playing D&D online. I hear about it a lot. Some people enjoy it. I don't think any of those people are here today.
Well, it's not me, I'll tell you that.
Nor I.
I found Roll20 had some upside. I also found it had many downsides. And you've been using it for Storm King's Thunder.
Yep. So. I have indeed been using it for Storm King's Thunder. Wish I wasn't, but
it crashes a lot.
So let's go.
A lot.
So we'll go through it and go over a couple categories. The first is technical functionality as a DM. So that'll be the first topic. The second topic will be use as a player, how easy it is to use as a player. And then third will be the positives, what it does make easier. And the con. And then, of course, our overall thoughts, which I think you can already guess are not positive. First is how it runs, its functionality as a DM. So, I have not DM'd in Roll20, so I will leave it to these two. Who would like to go first?
It breaks constantly. I feel like it used to be better. When I DM'd Waterdeep Dragon Heist, we did Roll20, and it was kind of okay. Although at that point they had a lot of trouble with their lighting. Dynamic lighting is a genuinely cool feature. It basically lets you keep parts of the map hidden. So the only parts of the map that will light up that they'll be able to see is what their character would see. That is a really cool feature. At the time we were playing, it wasn't really working perfectly. I think it's working better now. That is a genuinely cool feature. What do you think?
You see, I don't like the dynamic lighting because I find it never actually works properly.
Okay.
Every time I've tried to put it on, all I hear from the players is I'm just seeing a black screen. There's nothing here. And then you move them and they still can't see it. And it's set to be visible, or the whole thing should be visible. And they still can't see it. And I find it's really difficult to customize. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not using it properly. But I find you can't customize it for each character. Some of the characters have Darkvision or Devil Sight. So they should be able to see through any kind of darkness up to X feet. But you can't tell Roll20 that. It's just nope, you're going to see this small section ahead of you.
I'm curious if you found this. When you tried to troubleshoot a problem with Roll20, they update it consistently. So, if you look it up, all the information on how to fix it will be 3 years old, by which time they've updated that lighting 4 times. So what would normally be helpful really isn't at all.
Yeah.
Also, okay, so wait, I think that's another point that is that I've heard you guys mentioning before. The maps aren't free, are they? You can't pick a map. You don't. So there's a $20 per year, I think, fee. Is it?
I think it's $5 a month.
$5 a month, and
it depends on the level you buy.
Okay.
Yes, they try to screw you.
They do.
So let's say, for example, Waterdeep Dragon Heist. It's a book. So if you want to own Waterdeep Dragon Heist in Roll20, it will cost you $50. Now, you might be like, oh, okay, cool. I can virtually own Waterdeep Dragon Heist. No, you can play Waterdeep Dragon Heist in Roll20. That's what you get. See how there's text here? That text is not in Roll20. There are maps and there are stat blocks for everything you will fight, but a lot of the actual adventure is not there. It's just not written. So if there's a paragraph describing a city, for instance, that paragraph is not in Roll20. So you still need to go out and pay $50 to get the actual book. or buy the book like on D&D Beyond or somewhere else. It doesn't end there. Because let's say, okay, so you've got Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Yippee! Now you can run a regular adventure. Well, you still have to pay $5 a month to get the dynamic lighting and other features, but the dynamic lighting's the main one. So, okay, so it's a $50 down payment and $5 monthly payments, or more. There's an upgraded version where you get other stuff too, just other little features designed to make things easier. Yeah, allegedly. $50 and then $5 a month, fine, whatever. Okay, then let's say, for instance, that one of your players wants to play a Goliath. Well, Goliaths are not in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. They're in Volo's Guide to Monsters, which also costs $50. And you'll have to buy that if you want the Goliath stats to be automatically imported into Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So that's fun. You know what other books are not included in the basic Roll20? Parts of the Player's Handbook, parts of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and parts of the Monster Manual. They're not there, which is great. So you can easily find yourself spending hundreds of dollars. I mean, you can add those things in yourself, but you're already paying a monthly fee for this. Like, it's a real hassle. I don't like it.
Yeah, and I find the whole reason I was using Roll20 for this campaign, which I don't understand why I did it in the first place, because when we met in person, I never put maps or anything out. It was always just a straight theater of their mind, because I couldn't be bothered to actually put maps together or any of that. I know other DMs will do that, and they'll say, well, you should, and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I just never did it. It was just too much hassle. And it worked just fine, I found. It was fine. But I'm like, oh, with Roll20, it'll be great. The maps are crap. The maps you get for the campaign are just like this top-down overview. And because dynamic lighting doesn't work, you end up with everything visible to the player that you don't necessarily want them to be seeing. And it's all there. And you're like, well, just pretend you don't see that part. Heaven forbid you need to create your own custom map. You can only use the free artwork unless you want to pay more money for some of their custom images that they've put in there. So then someone will be like, oh, what's the difference between this square and this square? And it's showing us like 1,000 feet. I'm like, no, each square is only 5 feet. Like, oh, but the marker says it's 1,000. I'm like, well, it's not. It's just the map I had to use because there was no city, Yatar, or Waterdeep, or Firestone, or whatever other place you're going to. It's just not included because they're not mandatory for the main story. It's just part of the adventure that you're supposed to build in for this campaign. The maps don't really work, and then the whole idea of like, well, you can see how far away, so your melee attacks can work better, but it's not because you're just saying, well, ignore the distances there. Ignore what you're seeing on the map. Ignore this, ignore that. And so what's the actual point of having it then? And then half the actual NPCs or named NPCs or main character, it's hit and miss whether they're actually been included in there because it depends if they were considered main story or not. Like, they'll have a named NPC in the adventure, but it's optional if you go to that town. Because that town doesn't exist in the maps, there's a good chance that NPC won't exist as a stat block. So you're going to have to create that separately as well. Or you'll do what I did, and you'll have Roll20 up on one screen, D&D Beyond up on another screen, and you've had to purchase the same freaking module in D&D Beyond and Roll20, and now you're paying this monthly subscription for Roll20, and you went somewhere else to try to find more maps, and you spend triple the price that you would have if you just went and bought the physical freaking book, or, God forbid, borrowed it from a friend, and ran it in person on pen and paper.
I own a copy of Storm King's Thunder. I could have loaned it to you.
And I hate my life. Thanks. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All right.
One thing I will say, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I found when I ran Rime of the Frostmaiden, which is one of the more recent games, it was the most recent campaign at the time, the maps were well done. Storm King's Thunder was a little older, and those maps were horribly done. The Rime of the Frostmaiden maps were okay. Now, that said, you're paying $50 for either campaign. Both campaigns should have pretty good maps not just one of them.
Yeah.
But also it breaks them. Like it crashes all the time.
It does crash a lot.
How often does it crash on your end as DMs?
Most games.
At least once a game.
Wow.
I think we are close to being finished Storm King's Thunder, having played it in Roll20. I think we would be finished by now if we were using Theater of the Mind.
Wow.
Yeah, guaranteed.
So I can accept, like, I don't have, like, the most top-of-the-line computer, so maybe that's me. Okay, that's fine. You guys have that problem with Roll20, though. And you have a pretty good computer setup because you make YouTube videos and stream. So clearly you can't have a terrible computer. I will say I know one person who really likes Roll20 and can really get it to work and has been using it for several years, speaks very highly of it, and can use it very well and doesn't have a lot of these problems, and that's great for him. He is a computer programmer by profession, so I feel like, you know, if maybe that's the audience for Roll20. If you are very, very, very inclined to have those particular skills, maybe you can make Roll20 work well for you. None of us are computer programmers, so maybe we're not their target audience. Maybe that's their target audience.
Maybe we just suck at using Roll20, and the problem is with us, and it's a fantastic platform.
I feel like I've known enough people to have problems with it that, like, I don't think it's just us.
So technically, it does not seem to be holding up. So I think from the technical aspects, we're not giving it rave reviews here.
You know, I feel like the best way for me to summarize my Roll20 experience is this. A buddy of mine is very soon going to be running his first D&D campaign. And he was asking me what I thought about using Roll20 for it, because, you know, we're doing it remotely. I was like, it's like, especially if this is your first time DMing, like, Roll20 is not very intuitive. It's gonna be a complete pain. Like, I'm sure you'll have a lot to focus on. Like, you know, all you'll be doing is causing more trouble for yourself. It does let you see rolls. That is one good feature. I really like that it lets you, like, you can make a stealth check, and then everybody sees what you rolled, and that's cool.
Okay, so that's a good segue into our second topic area, use as a player. So how it works when you're a player playing in Roll20. So I've only been a player. Both of you have been a player, and I've only ever been a player. So, I mean, from my end, I can tell you, I did. Who wants to start? Should I start? You guys want to start?
I can start if you want.
Sure.
I think what I like about Roll20 from a player perspective is that you can have your character token there. So you can just make, like, you know, a JPEG of it, you put it in, and the DM can upload it. And there's your character, and it's kind of cool because you have this visual representation of what you want your character to look like, and you can move them around. And it's free to do that. You don't have to pay to get a 3D mini printed if you really want to customize character for yourself. That's kind of cool. From a DM point of view, if you need to hand out a stat block, like in Storm King's Thunder, without giving away spoilers, there's a part where your players each get to control an NPC for part of the campaign. So that's really easy to just like, hey, this person's under your control now, and with a click of a button, they can pull up the stat block, they can move that character around, they have access to all their stuff, they don't need to worry about what it is, it tells them what they are, blah blah blah. It's really neat. If you're a spellcaster, you can put down right in the chat what the spells are, what they do. It's all laid out for you. You don't have to flip through the player's handbook or have cards in front of you. It's really neat. It's useful in that regard, so I will give it points for that. But I still have so many other problems with it that while things are neat, I could do without them.
Yeah, I didn't have nearly as many problems with Roll20 when I was a player. It still would occasionally crash, but also if you're a player, it's not as like make it or break it. You know, if you have to reload it and you're like one of 6 players, you know, that's okay. Whereas if you're the DM, it really needs to be functioning. Most of the serious problems that I had with Roll20, I had while I was DMing. But yeah, as a player, it's much more manageable.
as a player, I was not a fan of it. So I was playing a bard, and I could never figure out how to get my stat increases after I think it's level 3 into Roll20 without having to manually go into the coding and like manually upgrade the stats, because I'm supposed to get like double stats on certain things. I found it significantly easier to update in D&D Beyond. So what ended up happening actually after like level 3 is that I had my character in Roll20 from the token, which is quite useful to physically see where your character is and be able to move them around the map and be like, yes, my character goes to see this corner of the map. I couldn't get the stats correctly, so I couldn't even roll in there. I was rolling in D&D Beyond and telling the DM what my rolls were, which is kind of one of the biggest features. I also wasn't a big fan of the way that the stat sheet is presented. I know that is, so the stat sheet that was presented is like, it looks exactly like the physical printed one. So if you're used to using that, like, you're gonna have no issue. It's literally like same thing. It's just you can type into it. I didn't like it. I'm used to the D&D Beyond setup, and I like the more interactivity of it and like being able to flip through the tabs more easily. So I didn't find Roll20 very comfortable to use my character sheet in. The maps were nice though. It is nice to be able to be like, oh, my character is here on the map, but difficult when you're like, oh, you didn't see that yet, and you're like, okay, of course you're like, okay, I didn't see that yet, but also you now know it's there. It's hard to tell, like, to be like, what would my character do without when they didn't see this, when they just saw this. So
you know what? I would like to retract my earlier statement, because I just remembered one time Roll20 erased my character sheet. Or it didn't erase it, it reset it. My character was like level 5 at the time. I was able to mostly get him back. Like, I didn't like it, but I was able to get him back. And I figured it out. I figured out that he got erased before the game. So I was able to get him back by the time of the game. But yes, Roll20 won. That just, I don't know why. He was there when I left, but he wasn't there when I came back.
Yep.
Roll20.
So, any other points we want to make about Roll20?
Theater of the mind is good. Actually, you know what I will say? I cannot immediately think of a better way to play D&D online other than just Theater of the Mind. Like, in terms of using different platforms out there, like, I've tried a couple others and they weren't great, but they were like about as good as Roll20, maybe a little worse. Yeah, I don't think there's a better system out there, but 20 is really inconvenient.
Yeah. I find from a player perspective, you can really imagine the landscape better and the maps better in your mind versus like whatever Roll20 gives you. You're no longer immersing yourself in this role-playing world that you're trying to create, right? Like the whole purpose of it. It's not there because now all you see is what's placed in front of you. So if, the DM is describing the scene to you, you're not really listening to the description so much. You're seeing like, oh, okay, what is there? And it's just generic bar room number 6. It's not this creative world that the DM is prepared for you, right? So I almost find it detracts more. It takes away from the spirit of what D&D, of what role-playing is when you're relying too much on Roll20. That's my take, but my disclaimer on that is my experience with D&D and any other role-playing game has almost exclusively been Theater of the Mind before we switched to Roll20 for the last 2 campaigns.
That's really interesting. Yeah, like I hadn't considered that, but it can sort of be a crutch where it's like, well, I could describe the room that your characters are entering, but you can already see it on the map in Roll20, so I kind of don't have to. But yeah. That's really interesting.
Also, in case it wasn't clear, if you are a player, you do not have to pay to play in the campaign. It's only the DM that has to pay, which, I mean...
Pay your DMs!
Yeah, pay your DMs, guys!
Your DM pays in money and frustration.
Yes, support your DMs. But as a player, it is free. So there's not anything else from the player. We can move on to the...
No.
I think one of our players knows someone who works there, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoops.
And it's still...
I still don't like Roll20.
All right, so moving on to the final piece. So let's go over
not sorry, Roll20.
So moving on to the final piece, let's go over the pros and the cons. So let's start with the pros. What are the pros?
Pro, you get a little character token that you can put in for free if your DM likes you.
It's better than...
It's better than, yeah, okay.
That's what I got.
Cons.
It's cool to be able to see your roll.
I think it's nice to be able to see where, like, visually see where your character is in comparison to the other characters, like, in real time. Cons!
It's expensive. It breaks down a lot. Dynamic lighting doesn't work. You need a computer science degree to manipulate it properly.
Some campaigns are supported better than other campaigns.
Not all campaigns are created equal. I really find it detracts from the role-playing experience, and it becomes almost like a digital board game, which can be fine if that's what you're going for. I just find it's not the way I like it. I find it takes more time than if you're just doing theater of the mind. And this is just getting like semantics, but dice rolls aren't random when they're computer generated. Like, there's something about getting your own like set of dice that you've trained to roll properly.
You've trained?
Dice training is a thing, okay? But you get your own dice, you've trained them, they know how to roll, and you can punish them when they roll improperly. You get too many ones and it goes off to dice jail, and that D20 is never coming out again. You're getting a new one. You can't jail a digital die because it's code.
You know what else I just remembered about Roll20? It's supposed to like work with like your webcam. And it never does, ever. Yeah. Like we always just use like Google Meet.
Yeah, the chat feature sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize you were supposed to be able to use your camera because I've never seen that work. So there you go.
It's terrible. Like we disabled it in like session.
Oh wow. Okay,
I just remembered something else that sucks.
Okay.
You cannot print your own character sheet. You make your character sheet in Roll20 and just that's your character sheet. That's where it lives. Would you like a PDF of it? Would you like to print it? No, it's in Roll20. That's the only place it is.
Okay.
I remember after Dragon Heist, one player was like, asked me if there was like a way he could get his character sheet off of Roll20, and I looked and like, nope.
Yeah, so as you can see, not a whole lot of positives. As a player, definitely I found too that it was just much easier to do theater. I found Theater of the Mind was much more engaging and easier and more entertaining. There's some slight benefit to having the ability to see where my character is in comparison to others in the space, but I don't think that's good enough to spend $5 plus $50 plus all the headaches of Roll20. I think it would just be better to go to D&D Beyond, create a really usable character sheet, and I'll pitch in to buy all the books for like when they're on sale, or the single book you need when it's on sale that Rusty said he had to buy anyway in order to actually run the campaign in the end anyway. So
also, I don't think Roll20 has sales. I could be wrong, but I've never seen them.
So yeah. Our vote, would we vote yes, thumbs up or thumbs down? yeah.
More thumbs.
Guys, don't. Yeah, so in conclusion, guys, as you can see, there's not a lot, we don't have a lot of high praise for it. I think if you want to spend that kind of money, you'd be better off waiting for one of the D&D Beyond sales. Computer people out there, programmers, maybe like all of us can like get together and like we can like create an actual usable. Maybe it's very difficult. Maybe we don't understand how complicated it is behind the scenes. None of us, as we said, are computer programmers, but like missed the mark, sadly. Well, thank you.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yes, please comment, subscribe. Let us know what else you'd like to see. What other things would you like us to review? Do you like this style?
Do you like Roll20? Are we missing something? Maybe we are.
Yeah.
I certainly felt like I was when I used it.
I mean, maybe if you can tell us how to make it work, like sing like a canary, like please. I'm like all ears.
5 likes and Nerdy will DM a campaign.
25 likes.
25 likes and she'll DM it in Roll20.
Wait, 25. That'll need 2,500 likes.
Yeah, okay, 25,000 likes and I'll DM it in Roll20. 25,000 likes, I'll DM it in Roll20 doing a handstand.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I hope this gets that many likes.
Oh my god, if that happens, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have to train. Anyways, well, thank you, everybody.
Till next time.
Bye!